If you've ever spent a bit of time on the internet, you've probably read some comments like these. The amount of Serb nationalists in the comment section proves that we Albanians live in a Serbian nationalist headland free. Justice to Macedonia and Macedonian people. Macedonia has been tortured for years. Splitting Macedonians in these parts is unjust. The Greeks and the Bulgarians who have killed, tortured, abused Macedonians do this to this day. Justice to Macedonia. You are so welcome to leave Serbia as soon as possible. It is better for both us, for Serbs definitely, and for you Austro-Hungarian, Bulgarian or other mixed kind of shit even better. Shut up, I live in Serbia and it's best. I don't like Turkish ice cream, Albanian one is better. And you know, the Balkans are great people, they have the best people, I love the Balkans, you know, I picked the Balkans, they have the best women, the best food, I love the Balkans. But at the same time, if there's ever been the most annoying people that ever existed, then that has to be the Balkan Nationalists. Now, as someone who spent most of his life living in the hellhole of the Balkans, and who makes videos about the countries God himself created as some cruel and twisted joke, my channel has become a petri dish of all sorts of internet tomfoolery. As such, I have been molded, shaped by the Balkan nationalistic comments that I have transcended our plane of existence and learned truths far beyond what mere mortals could ever hope to even grasp. And today, I'm going to teach you, poor little Western boys and girls, about the magical world of Balkan nationalism so you too can maybe one day become as enlightened as I am. Now, the first thing to know about every Balkan nationalist is that for some reason, every single one of them is obsessed about being the first in the Balkans. It doesn't matter at all that their countries rank as the poorest in Europe, nor that they are some of the most corrupt where the politicians drive the newest model of the Mercedes-Benz, while the average Joe struggles to even afford day-old bread and pate that has been on the shelf longer than Putin has been president. They are the ancestors of Proto-Balkaners, and their ancestors civilized all of Europe 2,000 years ago, and all the other neighboring countries came from the backwoods of Russia and stole their rightful Proto-Balkan land. Literally, every single Balkan nationalist does this. The Albanians and Serbs love to LARP as the Illyrians, so online they constantly get into fights trying to prove how they were the original Illyrians and that the other came from wherever the f*** in Russia. The Bulgarians LARP as the Thracians, the Croatians as Proto-Iranians, and the Romanians as the Dacians. And of course, we cannot forget the North Macedonian nationalists, who despite being 102% Slavs with a 2% margin of error, swear on their mothers' graves that they are the rightful descendants of ancient Macedonians and Alexander the Great himself, who personally danced the Teshkoto and ate Tavče Gravče. And for some reason, they think this LARP gives them some legitimacy to their territorial claims, as if all that shit didn't happen over 2,000 years ago, and as if every single one of the Proto-Balkan civilizations didn't have their teeth kicked in by the Romans. But out of all of the ancient civilization LARPers, I don't think there's anyone who LARPs this harder than the Albanian Kosovo nationalists. Any post that mentions Kosovo or Serbia, you'll find some guy with the Albanian flag or some ancient artifact from the 10th century BC as his profile picture, writing paragraphs on how the Albanians were ancient Dardanians and how the Serbs came from the cold Russian tundra, freezing and shivering across the continent, and how they, the Albanians, were this ancient technologically advanced civilization on par with Atlantis, and they have millennia and millennia of history. But then you go to Pristina, and all their statues are of US politicians from the 90s, like Bill Clinton, Madeleine Albright, and they named their kids Tony Blair. While the Pristina National Museum doesn't have half of the artifacts even labeled, and on Twitter every post is saying how Serbia stole their artifacts. Indeed, one of the most ancient civilizations of all time. Because I'm balanced, and I want to piss everyone off equally, the Serbs when it comes to Kosovo are not any less tiresome. Every time I can't be bothered to change a map that shows Kosovo as a country, I get a million comments spamming me, "Wrong map, bro, Kosovo is Serbia." First, I genuinely couldn't care less if Kosovo was Serbian, Albanian, Hungarian, or Pakistani. They literally set up their own government, illegally adopted the euro, and have their own police, military, and passports. every time they do some abhorrent shit to fuck with the Serbs, Vucic makes some song and dance on how this is the last straw, we are a serious country and economic tiger, and brings up planes to fly around and show the great might of the Serbian Air Force and military, but he can't even fly them across Kosovo's airspace. Hell, you can now even see Kosovo license plates with their coat of arms in full glory on every single Serbian highway. Each year the nationalists say next year in prison, but the next year never comes. I mean, I get Hungary got its shit kicked in via Trinon, and their nationalists still haven't shut the hell up about it to this day, but still, just please at this point, give half of Kosovo to Israel and the other half to Palestine, and the conflict would be much less toxic. Going back to LARPing as ancient civilizations. This LARP is extremely present whenever the migration period, you know, a mainstream academic theory is talked about. And to disprove it, they all start obsessing over their DNA and haplogroups. No bro, you don't understand, we have the H420B69 haplogroup. How could we have migrated here if we have the H2O haplogroup? Please bro, I'm Proto-Balkan, I swear. We are the ancestors of Illyrians, bro. My uncle is a direct descendant from Da Vinci culture, bro. Which in particular is funny because 9 times out of 10, they work in some gas station or bakery, but somehow are experts on genetics. If you had half of the enthusiasm to pass your biology class that you have to argue with strangers online about haplogroups, maybe you wouldn't be working the night shift at OMV. I'm just saying. In particular, the Bulgarian nationalists really take these DNA ramblings to a whole other level of schizophrenia, because ancient Bulgaria came from the steppes and used to be Turkic nomads that migrated to the Balkans and intermingled with the locals and Slavs. And when you say the word Turkic, they think that they are being called Turks and not actually something completely different. So they have to bring out the haplogroup charts. Also, for some reason, they all think that the migration origin somehow makes them less white and is inherently bad. So at any cost, they must prove that they in fact are 100% European, as their 23andMe results showed. The only nationalist group that does the opposite of this are the Hungarians, who despite being the whitest MFs walking the globe, LARP as the descendants of Genghis Khan and Attila the Hun. What's even funnier is that up until the mid-20th century, the Hungarian nationalists were trying to disprove that the Magyars came from Siberia and prove that they are, in fact, pure-blooded Europeans. But as soon as others in Europe stopped calling them Mongols and accepted them as their own, they did a 180 and started again claiming to be 100% pure-blooded Asians. So I guess if anything, they're just staying true to the core Hungarian value of claiming opposite of everyone else. And Soros, if you'd like Hungary to start taking in migrants and stop being homophobic, just make the rest of the EU anti-immigration and anti-LGBT, and you can send me my paycheck via Super Chat. The other thing that can summon Balkan nationalists like a horde of zombies is talking about a country's history. If you ever tell a nation's history objectively and via a widely accepted perspective, they'll just have an autistic meltdown and call you uneducated, wrong, and funded by Soros, two of which are false, considering I'm not a woman and I have a bachelor's degree. In their minds, their country never did any wrongdoings and throughout history was eternally the victim of circumstance. Despite their country's best efforts to give their neighbors civilization, friendship, and brotherhood, the evil barbarian neighbors backstabbed them, stole their land, and collaborated with the Turks to ruin Europe. This in particular is evident when they start talking about culture. Every single one, from the Serb, Albanian, Croat, Bulgarian, Romanian, or Greek nationalists, will swear with their life that their country was first and all other Balkan countries came from them. They especially claim that the majority of the Balkan languages and food came from theirs, despite again all of us getting our teeth kicked in by the Ottomans and being force-fed cevapi and sarma for 300 years. The Albanians love to claim this against the Greeks. The Serbs, Croats, and Bosnians do this amongst each other, but the absolute worst when it comes to this are the Bulgarian nationalists. Again, the Bulgarian ones are insistent that every single Slavic language came from Bulgarian. No ifs, no buts. Russian, it's Bulgarian. Polish, Bulgarian. Serbian, especially Bulgarian. All of them at one point were Bulgarians, but they were traitors and made up their own languages because they couldn't stand being such a superior race. And the thing is, right, there is a slight, just slight sliver of truth here. as the Cyrillic writing system was originally created in Bulgaria. The way it spread throughout the Slavic world was through religious scripts written in Old Church Slavonic. Now, the Slavs came to the Balkans around the 6th century from some bumfuck swamp somewhere in eastern Germany, Poland, and Ukraine. And at one point, they all spoke the same language. At the time of the invention of Cyrillic in the 9th century, the Bulgarian Empire was one of the most influential ones in Europe. As a result, the missionaries who spread the alphabet based it on Old Bulgarian, which was deemed Church Slavonic. And considering only 300 years passed since the Slavs came to the Balkans, they still could understand Bulgarian, which was essentially just another dialect of Slavic at this point, as their languages didn't diverge enough yet. But the Bulgarian nationalists interpret this as they were all Bulgarian and they all spoke Bulgarian! And of course, the nationalists from other Slavic Balkan countries will deny any of Bulgaria's involvement because their country was the best and Bulgaria is just a backwards nation. Of course, if you ever mention any of the war crimes their country committed, they gotta hit you with the classic line, it didn't happen, but they still deserved it. Wikipedia in particular had a huge problem with Croatian nationalists who kept editing the Croatian wiki on the World War II section where they continually denied Croatian war crimes and even presented the Croats as the victims while demonizing the Serbs. There's an entire YouTube video on this shit show and I highly recommend you watch it. And when talking about war crimes, you cannot not mention the Serbs. In particular, the Serb nationalists are notorious for this. At the same time, hella proud of how they were beating everyone in Yugoslavia and winning, but at the same time, no, they never touched any civilians. They were all military-aged men. But their enemies? You see, it was them who were genociding the Serbs. They are the true victims. They, as the heavenly race of people that they are, only tried to preserve their own, but the evil Croats, Bosniaks, and Albanians genocided them, and the entirety of the West is lying because Bill Clinton wanted to hide that he was getting some sloppy toppy and making up events in Yugoslavia and bombing Serbia, and all those mass graves near Belgrade planted by Soros himself. In conclusion, imajte mi se više s tim Kosova ili Ireme jebovom pas mater.